Good morning, Nigeria, and a beautiful weekend to you. Welcome to today's newspaper review. First, let's start with the Guardian newspaper. On the Guardian newspaper, the lead page says, Victory in Forest, Failure in System, Hard Lessons from Orire Rescue Mission. The full story is on page 4 and 5 of the newspaper. Then, at the top of the same newspaper, on politics, in page 11, why Adeola is best positioned to succeed Abiodun as Ogun governor. This is coming from Aki Tunde. Still in the same newspaper, at the bottom of that newspaper, NDLEA declares alleged drug kingpin, 3 associates wanted. The full story is on page 3 of the newspaper. Still in the same newspaper at the bottom as well, Shettima urges local government chairman to deepen fight against malnutrition with Nutrition 774 initiative. That's coming from the Vice President Shettima. He's urging local government chairmen to deepen fight against malnutrition across the 777 local government areas in Nigeria. The full story is on page 3 of the same newspaper. Still in the same newspaper, Supreme Court upholds final forfeiture of Emefiele's properties, $2.045 million asset to federal government. That's Emefiele's property has been forfeited to the federal government, worth $2.045 million. The full story is on page 36 of the newspaper. Mofang pledges sustained security partnership as new GOC takes charge. The full story is on page 36 of the newspaper. We now move over from that newspaper to the Daily Trust. On the Daily Trust newspaper on page 5, AKK, 6 years, multiple deadlines, no gas. At the top of the same newspaper, Benue, how 59 persons were killed in 74 days. The full story is on page 22 of the newspaper. Jostle for deputy governorship slots intensifies as INEC open portal today. So the INEC portal is opened today. The full story is on page 26 of the newspaper. Then at the bottom of the newspaper, drugs shortages, out of pocket payments, dog health scheme. The full story is on page 10 of the newspaper. We move over from that newspaper to the Daily Sun. On the Daily Sun newspaper, the rescued school children and school teachers in Oyo State has recounted their ordeal in the forest. They said 55 days in hell, that their 55 days in the forest was hell. The full story is on page 12, 13, and 25 of the newspaper. Then at the top of the newspaper on page 24, this is coming from David Umahi, the Minister of Transportation. He said that I spent 2.2 million naira on Habila's strange illness. Still in the same newspaper, 2 communities, 1 broken lifeline. The full story is on page 4 and 5 of the newspaper. Then at the bottom of the newspaper on insecurity, how communities move against bandits with local forces. The full story is on page 10 and 11 of the newspaper. Non-state actors squaring up against kidnappers and other criminals. We move away from that newspaper to the Matrix. On the Matrix newspaper, 2027, Jonathan's presidential bid suffers setback. Jonathan presidential bid suffers setback. Then at the top of the same newspaper, federal government denies plan to ban raw cocoa export. The federal government has denied the plans to ban raw cocoa exports. In the middle of the newspaper, federal government slams terrorism charges on 3 over Orire school kidnap. At the bottom of the newspaper, ADC asks National Assembly to probe Tinubu's fitness to govern Nigeria. That's coming from the African Democratic Congress. They are asking the National Assembly to prove the president's fitness to govern Nigeria. Still in the same newspaper, Tinubu signs executive order to harmonize visual assets regulation, set up coordinating council. Still in the same newspaper, on entertainment, this is coming from Jarvis. Jarvis warns singles against rushing into marriage without money. Jarvis, that's coming from the entertainer Jarvis. We now move away from that newspaper to the Daily Monitor. On the Daily Monitor, federal government begins prosecution of suspect in Oyo school kidnapping. You get the full story on page 2 of the newspaper. At the top of the same newspaper, on page 9, why I wept over Toyin Abraham's Naira reign. This is coming from Nollywood actor Emeka Okoye, why he wept over Toyin Abraham's Naira reign. The full story is on page 9 of the newspaper. Find out why Nollywood actor Emeka Okoye said what he said. Still in the same newspaper, Anambra court sentenced self-styled prophet Onye Eze Jesus to 6 years in prison. The full story is on page 2 of the newspaper. Anambra court sentenced self-styled prophet Onyeze Jesus to 6 years in prison. Then this is coming from still Nollywood actress Uche Obodo. I don't want to share details of my failed marriage. Recall that she recently divorced her husband, and a lot of people have been wanting to know what is happening, why she ended the marriage, and she just stated here that she doesn't want to share details about her failed marriage. Still in the same newspaper on page 2, embrace politics of service, accountability and competence. Emir Sanusi to politicians. So Emir Sanusi has asked politicians to embrace politics of service, accountability and competence, and not just to be politicians. Then on page 5 of the newspaper, Mary Habila's family petition IGP for release of her corpse. Recall the lady that died in Ebonyi State, the physiotherapist that died in Ebonyi State. The family has petitioned the Inspector General of Police for releasing her corpse. We move away from that newspaper to the New Telegraph. On page 29 of the New Telegraph, government must decapitate bandits, kidnappers, their enablers, coming from the ACF. Then at the top of the newspaper, on Orire, brother, wife of slaughtered teacher, plead for his remains for burial. The full story is on page 5 of the newspaper. Recall the school teacher that was beheaded. The family are pleading for his remains so they can give him a befitting burial. At the bottom of this newspaper, coming from the Nigerian Labour Congress, the NLC, privatization biggest scam. Workers yet to get 10% equity 13 years after sale. The full story is on page 3 of the newspaper. Tinubu signs executive order on visual assets. The full story is on page 3 of the newspaper as well. We move away from that newspaper to the Daily Independent. On the Daily Independent, the silent gold mine, why Nigeria's smartest youth are swiping past federal government's best kept secret. The full story is on page 8 of the newspaper. Find out why Nigeria's smartest youth are swiping past federal government's best kept secret. Then at the top of the newspaper, Oshodi gang clash. Katia admits shooting at scene, says police were targeted by mistake. The full story is on page 30 of the newspaper. 3 arraigned over abduction of Oyo pupils and teachers. The full story is on page 4 of the newspaper. Still in the same newspaper, Soyinka at 92. Onyeka Onwelu reveals philanthropic side of the literary legend. The full story is on page 19 of the newspaper. Wole Soyinka is 92 years old, and then Onyeka Onwelu has revealed the philanthropic side of the legend. Still in the same newspaper on page 3, Mary Habila. Atiku asks Tinubu to suspend Umahi immediately. The ADC presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar has asked President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to suspend David Umahi immediately, the former governor of Ebonyi State, now the Minister of Works. He's been asked to be suspended by the president over the death of the physiotherapy Mary Habila. Still in the same newspaper, how Ibrahim Suleiman transformed from board architect into Nollywood's refreshing polymath. The full story is on page 9 of the newspaper. Still in the same newspaper on page 5, group kicks against proposed ban on gospel preaching, trading in public buses. The full story is on page 5 of the newspaper. If you have ever used public vehicle before, you will know that there are some people who carry out evangelism inside the buses, and then groups of people have kicked against it, proposing that this particular act should be banned. We move away from that newspaper to our last newspaper for today, which is the Nation newspaper. On the Nation newspaper, Oyo abductions, 3 face 10 counts terror kidnapping charge. The full story is on page 4 of the newspaper. Still in the same newspaper, no cause for alarm over US aid, says Jimoh Ibrahim. The full story is on page 3 of the newspaper. We've come to the end of the newspaper review. Many thanks for watching. I am Kasitoni. Stay tuned as we bring you more updates.